Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP, and 10 million jobs. And in support of this mission, we've been doing these free mentoring roundtables since the fall of 2008. So this is our 323rd free mentoring session. And, typically this is a global affair. Even today, you will see there's, people from multiple different countries. And it's an incredibly interesting view into what's happening, what are entrepreneurs thinking in different parts of the world, and it's a real privilege for us to be able to work with you. The event is being recorded. You will have the recording available on our blog as well as on our YouTube channel. If you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M, and our Twitter handles are at 1M by 1M and at Romana. Feel free to follow it. Those channels are richly populated channels with entrepreneurship content. The YouTube channel has all the recordings of previous sessions of these 1M1M roundtables. So you can find all of them there. They're free, and they are an incredibly interesting learning material as well. And these are the call-in numbers. We are not quite ready for call-in yet, but this is a roundtable, so we want you to participate as much as possible. So I will put this slide up again later on when we are ready for Q&A. We're going to start today with a conversation with Asheem Chandna, who's a partner at Greylock Partners and a veteran venture capitalist whom I have tremendous respect for. Asheem, welcome. It's a superb opportunity to have you here and talk to our entrepreneurs and clarify a lot of misconceptions of venture capital financing. Is your line on unmute? Yes, perfect. So Asheem, we're going to start with some level setting. You're one of the very few VCs who still practices real venture capital, as in financing concepts for developing significant products, not already revenue-generating businesses, which is where venture capital is slowly moving to or has already moved to. Please share with us a couple of case studies of concept to scale financings that you've done and that have worked out particularly well, and what is your thinking in how you, how you choose to do those things, those kinds of businesses, and what can we learn from it?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me this morning, Samrana. Pleasure to be here. So, yeah, I've been at Greylock about 14 years, and, a significant part of my work there has been, as you mentioned, working with entrepreneurs, from the founding stage. So really from a concept stage where, one has a smart engineer or a smart entrepreneur or a couple of executives that have a product concept, that either targets an existing market or goes after a new market. And, in terms of maybe a couple of quick case studies, my most successful case study, in this area really would be a company called Palo Alto Networks, which got initiated in our office 11 years ago now. And the company today is roughly at about a $2 billion business size. I think 14 or 15, probably $14 billion market cap company, and, generating, many hundreds of millions of free cash flow every year. Yeah. And the story of that company really is, and to use that as a quick case study, brilliant technologist and entrepreneur and engineer was a friend of mine. His name is Nirzuk. He's the founder of the company. He came by, sat in our office without an idea, and we basically cycled through a bunch of ideas, and then, came up with an idea for a, enterprise-grade, integrated, kind of next-generation security product. But I think the key piece here, which, may be a learning for other entrepreneurs is, what we did next is, we actually went and talked to a very significant number of customers. So we kind of, defined a basic product concept, and Neer actually took the rigor of actually writing a data sheet before anything was built, created a few slides, And, then we flew to New York for a week together, talked to a bunch of customers there, talked to many customers in Silicon Valley, and, probably talked to 40 or 50 customers before the first significant check was written. So another quick example would be a company called Sumo Logic, which is a privately held company today, and, it's several tens of millions of, annual recurring revenue, a couple of hundred employees, and, the similar story, two brilliant engineers, Christian Biedgen and Kumar Saurabh, the idea was, doing cloud-based log management and analytics, which seems a lot more obvious today than it was, 5 or 6 years ago when this company was started. So similar kind of process, talk to a number of customers and, refine the concept, and then we wrote a check. And then the last one I'll quickly mention is we're involved with a company called Awake Networks, which is today in stealth mode. There's about 35 engineers in the company today. Actually, I have a board meeting there right after this call this morning. And that company also got initiated in our office a couple of years ago. And, another brilliant entrepreneur, gentleman called Michael Callahan, second time around we're backing him. And he sat in our office. We came up with a concept, for a next generation security analytics offering. And, basically Michael, a couple of my colleagues at Greylock, and myself, we talked to about 50 customers, over a period of multiple months, refined the concept, and then, Greylock wrote, in that case, like, $8 million plus check, and we initiated the company. And also along the way, before we initiated the company formally, we helped him find 3 co-founders to kind of complete the founding team in that case, yeah. So maybe
folks, just to underscore some of the case studies that Asheem has talked about, Palo Alto Networks, you'll find the case study on the blog. Nir discussed his founding process extensively, and it's amply documented. You can go check it out. Sumo Logic also, we've done the story. This last one, as you said, is stealth, so we haven't gotten to that one yet. But I think the process that you're describing is precisely the process we follow here in 1M with all our, enterprise or B2B projects, is this immensely immersive customer discussion, and very early on. In fact, I kind of try to tell people, and sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't listen, is not to write a line of code without actually talking to a significant number of customers. There is this, the lean startup movement has created this myth that you need to kind of iterate, prototype, iterate, and I don't think madly iterating without actually talking to customers and getting the specs right is a productive way of doing business. Do you agree with that?
No, I couldn't agree more. In fact, I would just add, just to that, right, and maybe a little bit of a misconception around, let's say venture capital and Sandhill Road. A lot of entrepreneurs think that they got to hit a significant number of milestones before they can approach, top-tier venture capital firm or a, prominent venture capitalist. And I would say, nothing could be further from the truth for many, many firms and many individuals. The most important thing is really, I would say, it's the quality of the individual, and then the, let's say the significance of the opportunity. And so I think to your point, I would say probably the most important thing an entrepreneur can do is really think through what they're doing and try to, get an understanding of the market opportunity and the reality of it, or the lack of the reality of it. And,
yes.
If you can really size the opportunity and understand the pain of the customer and understand who the buyer is and what they might actually pay, and think through that and validate that, as much as possible through early conversations. I think to your point, I would argue that that's 100 times more important than, quickly getting into a room and starting writing code and something that may not be important. And then just to take it further, right, I would say, so we see companies and individuals, where it's one person with an idea, and we'll have a few meetings with that person, or a couple of people, and we'll write a multi-million-dollar check, and those people have no code written. And then, take the other side, companies approach us all the time where there may be a few million in revenue, there may be several tens of employees, or even north of 100 employees in the company, and we either won't take the meeting after we see the slide deck, or we take one meeting and there'll never be a second meeting, right? So just because, our view is, that particular situation, it doesn't really have the runway, right, that we want, whereas, one person comes in with a good idea, and we can see that there could be a very large runway here, and then that would cause us to write the check.
So, but what you're saying is kind of counter to the trends of the venture capital industry right now. It has become the age of lean startups at the seed early stages these days, where entrepreneurs are expected to bootstrap to significant traction, multi-million dollars worth of revenue before they get to Series A. So what you're doing is more the fast startup model, where you're putting in money up front and building a product, but you're doing it with a very extensive customer immersion and validation by talking to customers and getting the specs before you write that check. But very few VCs are doing this today. What are your thoughts about how venture capital is evolving?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would say just, a few quick thoughts. I would say one is, I'm personally a supportive, I consider myself a supporter of entrepreneurs. I'm a supporter of startups. That said, I think most startups are on journeys to nowhere, unfortunately, right? I mean, most people are working very, very hard on things that actually will not materialize, unfortunately. And, many of these folks are better off going into other companies, versus continue to run these journeys. So I think really kind of goes back to, most people should really just give additional thought to what they're doing and try to be more strategic about, where do these journeys really go to. I think to your question about other VCs and why is the VC industry operating a particular way, there is an oversupply of venture capital. There's a lot of very, very smart people in venture capital. I'd probably say it's similar to most professions. Most people are lazy, right? So most people want everything served up on a plate.
Thank you. You said it. I did it.
The best opportunities don't often. I mean, some of the best opportunities actually do appear that way, but but many of them don't as well.
I have a favorite saying: VCs like to come to the rescue of victory these days.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Well. Yeah, and everybody wants to. There are many fathers of success as well, right? So yeah.
So as we look ahead, the segments where there is a lot of potential are machine learning, cybersecurity, robotics, and many of these are R&D heavy areas and not necessarily that conducive to the lean startup methodology of putting something together and taking it to revenue before you raise any money. How do you advise entrepreneurs to navigate the capital gap given this situation?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I would say, one is it's certainly easier today to build a software offering, a software or a hardware offering for that matter, than it was even just 3-4 years ago, right? I mean, I was looking at somebody else's Twitter feed yesterday, and he had an image there of all the API and other offerings on AWS, and he titled it, the Walmart of app development, right? It's like walking into Walmart and you can just pick and choose and quickly get going, right? So it's quite incredible what a young software developer can do today versus a few years ago. That said, I think to your point, yeah, I think products that command a lot of value do take a certain number of engineers. In my experience, if you want to sell to enterprise markets, in order to get a release one product out, you're most likely talking 15 to 25 engineers, probably working for a year to 2 years, maybe a year to year and a half is a sweet spot. So that just takes a certain amount of dollars. And then, if you want to sell something where you can, let's say, command, initial land into a customer of, many tens of thousands of dollars, or ideally, let's say, between $100,000 to $250,000, which is not an easy thing to do, but if you want to kind of build enough value to do that, you probably are talking 15 to 25 engineers working for a year to year and a half. So that does take a certain amount of dollars up front, and I think that is the reality of the situation. If one was to go back and look at, companies that have gone public and that are publicly traded today, or companies that, let's say, exited for, pick a bar, like north of 150 million or 200 million at some basic bar, one would find that many of those companies, when they built the initial product, they did raise a check of several $1 million. Now, I think one good news for entrepreneurs today is there is an oversupply of money. What used to be a Series A several years ago is considered a seed check today. We see many people come into our office and tell us they're raising a seed check, of $1.5 to $3 million. Once you get into the, $2, $3, $4, $5 million range, that's a Series A of several years ago. So the money, the good news is there's no shortage of money for really smart people who have compelling ideas. But I think it does take a certain amount of dollars if you want to build something, of significance.
There are a few issues with what you said. What you said is, at a 30,000-foot level, true. But when you start actually poking in, peeling the onion and poking in the guts of that statement, there are a lot of issues. One is, if you are looking for somebody to write you a check based on which you're going to develop a concept and that will take some time before you will see traction, people are looking for serial entrepreneurs, repeat entrepreneurs. They're looking to see, track record. And that, first-time entrepreneur's life is very, very difficult in that sense.
No, I would say yes and no. I would say certainly if one is a repeat entrepreneur, one has the credibility to your point, and you're going to quickly get meetings, right? I mean, if there's somebody got a success behind them, they email a bunch of VCs, even if it's not through a warm introduction, they likely get the meeting very quickly. But, we fund, the majority of the work we do is we're funding first-time entrepreneurs. And I'll give you an example of a couple of guys who were in our office last week. Two young guys, one of them was ex-Facebook, the other gentleman, I think he was ex-Google, so again, might be a little bit of an extreme case. But, first meeting, very smart guys, working on some new stuff in AI. We chose not to do it in this particular case, but, within 5 business days, they were funded by somebody else, $2 million check, another very prominent VC, and they told us when they were in office last week, just literally from day first start, moving very quickly. I'll give you an example of another one where we did do it, where first-time entrepreneurs, this is a company called Instart Logic, very interesting company, I think very highly of the team there. We were fortunate, we got introduced to some very young engineers several years ago now, took a meeting. On the spot, we committed $500,000 to them, literally. And I feel so fortunate we did that, There were, some very bright people. The primary founder is a young Indian engineer called Manav Mittal. He's turned out to be a superb CEO. He's got a rapidly growing company. So I just use that example. So we, I'd say, we're just looking for the caliber of the person. We're looking for the precision of their thought. The other thing I've found is many of the very best people, they can be very, very precise in their thinking, both in the way they write. And so it's one of the things I do look for when people email me ahead. I typically will request an executive summary or PowerPoint, and I just look for the precision in which they're communicating. And then, when they come into the meeting, if they can communicate precisely, and if their worldview is fair and rational, you have many very smart people who don't have very rational worldviews, and then in that case, we may not want to fund them. But, but I would say actually, I think it's true for us. I actually think it's true for many other VCs where, you don't have to be a repeat entrepreneur, but you do have to be, let's say, at the top of your game, right? So you could be a 22-year-old.
But domain expertise, right? I think you and many other VCs are absolutely, that precision comes from very deep domain knowledge, especially when you're trying to do something that is technically deep and heuristically deep. It has to be coming out of something that has very deep domain knowledge, and that's really what I see people looking for. I was talking to a guy last week. I did the story. It hasn't been published yet. It's a company called Leo Software.
Right.
And this guy had a very deep understanding of tax regulation that was new.
Yeah.
So about 7-8 years ago, he put together a company, and the first customer that he went to was Brocade.
Okay,
and that's a sizable customer that was willing to write a $300,000 check for this product. So he kind of sold the concept to the customer, got the customer to pay for it and build the product, and then every single customer he sold to, I think the first customer he sold for deep discount, but he got the understanding of the product and so forth, and the second, third customer onwards started selling at $300,000, and very deep domain knowledge, and it allowed him to bootstrap this company, because if you have something that is that high gross margin, right?
That's right.
And that solves a very sharp pain point, you can do something for relatively cheap from a financing point of view. So again, it speaks to your domain knowledge question, whether you're self-financing or doing it with seed financing or shooting for venture capital. I think it's that precision and domain knowledge that's really what wins eventually.
That's right. I think the other piece also in your example is just, I think, people, you want people on the technical side who can also get out there and talk to customers and have that hustle and have that ability to kind of, take, not be deterred by a no and keep going and do whatever it takes to kind of get those early customers.
Yeah. One method that we are seeing a lot of first-time entrepreneurs in particular using to successfully manage that capital gap in early stage fat startups is bootstrapping using services. So they would do contract software development, achieve that level of customer intimacy, really get to understand the problem, develop the domain knowledge, and then bootstrap a product company based on services revenues and that customer understanding. How do you view this method?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I would say that, I'd say time is nobody's friend, right? So basically, if I'm a young, or if I'm an entrepreneur and I basically, have an idea and I think the idea is significant for a software offering, right? Probably the best thing I can do for myself is get going with that as quickly as possible, right? And any time I spend, any of my work time I spend not focused on that, if that opportunity is real, somebody else is going to run and capitalize on that. So what I should really do is I should really kind of quickly get going with that as quickly as possible. Now, I think there could be a couple of reasons to go down the path you mentioned. One is if I can't raise the financing I need to go build that product.
Which is the truth for the majority of the first-time entrepreneurs. You have the privilege of sitting there and picking and choosing who we want to invest in, but if you look at the bulk of the entrepreneur community, they don't have that privilege.
So then I think, yeah, absolutely. I think being, entrepreneurial and saying, okay, I'm going to run the services business, the consulting business, use the cash flow from that to kind of fund my software offering. I think that's kind of very viable. But I would say the moment you get to a basic bootstrap at the next level, where you've got enough evidence behind your software offering that you can go raise the financing you need to kind of, focus on that software offering, you should get to that as quickly as possible. I think the other reason to kind of go down that path is, different people have different views on dilution and ownership, right? And I think some people take a point of view like, hey, even if I go slower, even if I have a lower market share or whatever, I just want to own the whole business. And hey, there are many ways to kind of come at this. And so certainly if one is a point of view that we want to own the business completely ourselves, then that could be a path to somebody, owning that completely themselves.
Well, I think there are, the way we look at, we actually do a lot of work with bootstrapped entrepreneurs, partly because, we are working with, our mission is to help as many entrepreneurs be successful as possible. And I can tell you the vast majority of these entrepreneurs should not be raising money because they just don't have the TAM to do a VC-funded company. And the truth is there are lots of niches where you can build a $5–10 million company, but you cannot build a $100–200 million company, and that's fine. It's just that you shouldn't waste your time chasing VCs in those situations. But on the dilution point, I guess the thing that is very concerning is there is a lot of hanky-panky in term sheets in the venture world.
Right.
So you could work 6–7 years and get nothing, even if your company is acquired for, let's say, $200 million because you're up to your neck in liquidation preferences. And a lot of first-time entrepreneurs don't really understand the concept. They're carried away by these very hefty valuations and so on and so forth. So your point is well taken that, that you shouldn't be worried about ownership and so forth, but but I would counter that by saying you should actually pay attention to what you're doing and where your negotiating privilege, or your negotiating position lies. Again, I have another favorite saying, which is do not go to VCs as beggars, go as kings.
Absolutely,
so that you do have some negotiating position.
Yeah, no, actually, but I'll just add to that and say, I think we at Greylock, and I personally, we want to be in business with entrepreneurs that are dilution sensitive. We want to be in business with entrepreneurs that, respect the value of equity and are very discerning about it, right? Because we want to be in business with people that want to grow the value, want to grow shareholder value. And I also would say that, I personally and, Greylock and, I'd say many of the best VCs, we're actually not fans of complex term sheets or of complex structure. And, generally, I mean, when we provide term sheets, the term sheets are extremely clean. Now, I think a couple of things I would say is that basically, many entrepreneurs, and I would say the venture press in particular, or even the business press, tends to focus on the amount of capital a company raises and looks at that as a strength of a business. And I also see many entrepreneurs' resumes, and the resumes begin with how much venture capital they raise. And it's all wrong, right? Because many of the best businesses are actually built, or the very best businesses are actually built in very capital efficient ways. And, and venture capital is nothing more than an artificial crutch in many cases. And so people have a false sense of security when they raise a lot of money. And the way you get yourself into trouble is if you raise a lot of money and you're not doing good primary work, and then you get quite frankly screwed by the preference table, right, or by the preference stack. So so I think if I was an entrepreneur, I would take the money, but then I would want to be very, very focused on the milestones I want to deliver, and I'd use my money very, very carefully.
And you bring up media. I think media is both ignorant and, as a result, extremely confusing for entrepreneurs, because look at this last 2 years obsession with unicorns. What is a unicorn? You can get a unicorn without any primary milestone delivery with stacks of liquidation preferences, and you get a unicorn.
Right, exactly.
And entrepreneurs are getting obsessed. Oh, I am running a unicorn because I got this valuation, and so what?
Yeah, and I think this is where, I think there's many, many very smart people at venture-backed companies, and the average employee at a venture-backed company, I think, is pretty smart. But I think people are also very naive, right? They focus on a lot of the wrong things. What they should really be focusing is on just more of the primary factors in terms of, as you mentioned, the total available market for an offering, what's the strength of the offering, what's really going on sales productivity, fundamentally, what's the quality of the people in the company, because if there's really...
customers. I mean, the bottom line is customers, revenues, profits. That's how you build fundamentals.
Yeah, exactly.
So last question, Asheem, what is your, like you are talking to various kinds of customers all the time, and you're seeing all kinds of things. What are some areas where you're looking to invest today?
Yeah, so I would say, we're clearly in, what I'd say what I would call, what many would call kind of, the mobile cloud era. The front end is going to mobile, the back end is going to cloud. That back end cloud might be, on public cloud, the back end cloud might be, behind the firewall, right? And what many people would say is that we're going to, we're in a hybrid world, and we're going to continue to be in a hybrid world for many years, with increasing kind of, let's say, push or pull onto, onto more of the public cloud, right?
Mm-hmm.
That backdrop, right, that's kind of what's going on broadly on the enterprise side. On the consumer side, we're going towards, a multi-billion-dollar audience. We're in early multi-billion, we're going into many billions of basically audience having smartphones, right? So it's a very, very interesting time. And so I'd say with that backdrop, right, we're looking for entrepreneurs, on the consumer side that can reach very large audiences, very, very quickly with new, concepts. And then on the enterprise side, right, looking for, I'd say, primarily subscription-based businesses that can live in that mobile cloud era, right, that can thrive in that mobile cloud era. So there's opportunities, you know, to reinvent the infrastructure stack. There's opportunities for new applications, you know, and then, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming. It was very interesting listening to you, and it's a rare treat to talk to somebody who actually still practices real venture capital. So thanks for taking the time.
So thanks very much for having me, Samrana. Yeah.
So folks, we're going to switch to the mentoring part of the conversation now. I actually should ask, is Asheem staying for the mentoring portion?
I'm going to leave. Actually, I'm going to run to the board meeting for that company.
You have a board meeting, yes, that's what I thought. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, so folks, I'm going to set some expectations before we jump into that segment of our conversation today. Look, this is a working session. We are here to work on your business together and give you some inputs with which you can accelerate your journey. That's it. This is not Shark Tank. It's not my intent at all to embarrass you or to entertain millions of users by making you squirm. That's not what this is about. We are on your side. Now, one thing please keep in mind in the context of this discussion and many other discussions we've had here, not all businesses can raise money. There is a very, very high bar that you have to cross to raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. Raising money does not guarantee success. Venture capital is a tool, and that tool applies to certain kinds of businesses, but that doesn't mean that the only businesses that will be successful are venture fundable businesses. You can be successful many other ways, and you should kind of not get obsessed. Driven by the media's obsession with venture capital, you should not be obsessed with venture capital. We constantly bring you perspectives on venture capital, how to raise money, what gets funded, what are the nuances of venture capital. All that is true, but we also want you to not be obsessed about venture capital as the benchmark of a successful entrepreneur. And also, this is a roundtable, so please do, participate. Questions in public chat, questions by calling in, all of that is welcome. I'll put up the call-in instructions later on in the program. We're going to start with Perry Oostdam from Amsterdam. Perry, please unmute your line and tell us what you're doing.
Hello, Srinivas. Thanks a lot for having me. Great talk to us now. I enjoyed the conversation earlier.
Great.
As a brief intro, our team is based in Amsterdam. Our development team and our sales is in Amsterdam. Our development team is in Poland. We run a cloud-based recruitment platform that helps companies shape the way they hire and hire more efficiently. Okay. So cloud-based, as mentioned, yeah.
Please keep going.
Sure. So the first slide here is showing what our customers are. This is as a little bit of background information. We started off with something different. I met my co-founder about 5 years ago. Quite funny, on an online platform, kind of dating site for entrepreneurs, you could say. We met online, and we started a different company first, which was a mobile gaming agency, a mobile gaming company. Did a lot of cool campaigns, also for ING, for Samsung. We did quite great campaigns. The only thing at some point that we realized that it wasn't that scalable. It was quite an agency going from campaign to campaign, while we actually preferred to start a business which was subscription-based. So we tried to mold it into a SaaS business. We pitched a couple of concepts in the team, see if it made sense for us to try it. But in the end, we realized about 2 years ago that it wasn't the scalable business that we were looking for. It was still a business, but not the scalable type of business. So what we did is we started off with a side project within our team, and this was an applicant tracking system, a rather technical term for recruitment software, because it was actually living up to all the criteria that we thought is a scalable business. So things like it should be sellable worldwide. It should be able to scale up with a relatively small team. So you shouldn't, like an agency model, scale up your account managers, etc. We wanted to have a low-touch sales model. So very much like you buy a Dropbox contracts online, you also need to buy a subscription-based model online. And some of these criteria were not in place in our existing business. So we decided to go on and find ideas that would live up to all the criteria. And we found that in Recruitee, which is cloud-based recruiting, and it's based on the amount of jobs offers you have. So the more jobs, the higher the monthly fee, and it's not dependent on the amount of seats you have. So our whole idea is to help teams work together in the hiring process. This is done by making sure that you can make job descriptions, tell a career site, promote your job to job boards, source candidates from the web. So it's basically your whole hiring funnel in one cloud solution, which is, like I said, offered on a subscription model. So this means it's quite easy for companies in other countries to start using it. So from the start, we have now about 2,000 companies that use the software. This is worldwide. So although we're from Europe, we also have a team now in the US. And it's really great to see signups coming from Singapore, from Canada, from countries we didn't heard of before. So that proves it is scalable, and it is worldwide like we aimed it to be.
So how long have you been doing this, Barry?
So
how long is this software, the subscription software, been in the market?
The company itself, we started building the MVP. I could very much relate to the story you just had with Asheem, because we actually also decided to bootstrap the company in the beginning. We had no external funding. We decided to fund ourselves, and we had the idea of it. One of the criteria was actually it should be very clear how to sell it before we start building it. So I actually spent myself, well, literally more than 200 hours on the phone, maybe 300, calling potential users from, for instance, recruiters that I found on job boards, saying, hey, we're going to build this new platform, would you help testing it if it's ready? So it was very lean in the beginning, and that got us up to a point that we were able to launch a beta version about 1.5 years ago. And when we launched a real subscription, so of course we were testing a bit to see what pricing model would fit well, and we launched a real subscription model about, I think 1.5 years ago that we actually launched a subscription, and about 2 years ago that we started the MVP.
So you say you have 2,000 customers worldwide, right?
That's correct, yeah. We have 2,000 customers worldwide, which is, majority is actually still in Europe. But we see more and more, I think the majority of the signups nowadays come from the US. So that's an interesting shift.
So talk to us about, tell us what the software is and how does it position with other, this is a very crowded space, recruitment software. Even SaaS recruitment software is a very crowded space. So how are you differentiating, and why do customers want your product versus others? And then what is the business model? What are you charging, and so forth?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And of course, before we started the business, we did some proper research on the market, and of course we did research on a lot of markets. And the reason why we find this market interesting is, first of all, more than half of the companies worldwide is not having a recruitment system yet. So you could say that although there are many players, there's enough for everyone. If I'm going in Amsterdam, find an Italian restaurant, I find many Italian restaurants, and I think the majority of them are doing quite well in Amsterdam. So first of all, the market is quite educated on the side of recruitment technology, but we thought maybe that's a good thing, because if you come in the market and you have traditional old players that, in our perspective, do it not the way it should be, it's not as easy or it's not as transparent as it should be, then there's a lot to gain in both an existing market, which is crowded. You can gain a lot. You can build a better product, or you can do it your own way. And of course, you have the other half of the market which is not having a system at all yet. So reasons enough for us to say, hey, why don't we start off with something that we would use ourselves? The reason why we started this is because we couldn't find something in the market that would actually fit the way we think recruitment should be. And so we started off saying, okay, let's build something which is exactly as modern, as fresh as the tools we use ourselves. So we work remotely. We are a company that from day one had to set up the infrastructure in a way that we were able to work remotely. So we use Slack for communication, we have Trello for our project management, we have Google Docs. So we're used to work in a way that all your processes and the way you communicate is very transparent and very organized. And I think a lot of these tools, they remind me of a really old Excel file rather than a modern system in the cloud that's easy to use. So that's the angle we set up from the beginning. Say, let's create something modern, which is truly easy to use. And this is easier said than done. Of course, it's a lot about the interface, and it's hard to combine an easy to use interface with rich features, of course. So it's a trade-off. But I think there's no such thing as Trello for hiring at the moment. There's no such thing as Slack for hiring. And that's exactly what we aim to be. We aim to be the company that if you think, okay, I'm this lean startup or I'm this modern company, I need to organize my hiring, then Recruitee is the first name you should think about.
And how much are you charging?
So we started with a very low touch model, meaning that if you have one open job, you pay $19 per month. If you have 4 open jobs, then you pay $49 a month. 9 jobs is $99, and then it scales up in packages of 10 jobs. So 20 jobs is $199, 30 jobs is $299, and so on and so forth. So basically this means if at some point in time you have less jobs, you downgrade. If you have more jobs, you upgrade. Some companies like to take a yearly package because they're quite safe on the budget forecasting. Other companies like the flexibility of monthly packages, but that's the, let's say, pay-as-you-go model that we have. And
you're doing all of these segments, like SMEs or corporates as well as agencies?
Yeah, that doesn't look good from a business perspective. If you look at it from the books, you would say you need to find a niche, get big and get out, is what they say in the scene sometimes. But no, I must admit, it's absolutely going all over the place. We have startups using the software, which is just a 2-man company looking to hire the first employee, which are on a level like $19 a month. We also have corporate clients nowadays that are paying way more, and that have hundreds of jobs on the platform and tens of recruiters, maybe even hundreds of recruiters using the platform at the same time. So it's very wide.
So how do you acquire customers? Let's listen to how you acquire customers, and I'll tell you what I think of your customer segments.
All right. Well, we started off, when we started off, we did, of course, old school selling methods. So we did direct mailing, mail campaigns, we cold called, very horrible sales channels, but it's just to get things going, basically. And quite early on, I think already on month number 4 of the company, we hired someone to do content marketing. This was our first hire. We set off to create a blog, create an ebook, do guest postings. We just set out to really try to have a presence online, creating all of profiles on platforms that we thought entrepreneurs would be, like TechCrunch, like GetApp, with comparison website. So we try to be at the places that our customers are looking for software like this. So think about Quora questions, LinkedIn groups, and we distribute the content that we generate. This is the most important channel for us. And then, of course, there are a lot of paid ad channels like comparison websites, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and, of course, LinkedIn with great targeting options. So a lot of possible acquisition channels and a lot of testing at the moment, yeah.
So if you were to look at your customers now and the segments, is it all inbound? Are these the reason it's all over the place? It's all over the place is because it's all inbound, please?
That's correct. Yeah, we have no outbound sales team at all. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then it's kind of okay because inbound is inbound, and you basically process the leads, and that's fine. So what are your questions? Let's go to your questions.
Yeah, I think the questions very much relate to that. We noticed that inbound is great. We do have challenges qualifying the leads because it's hard to, if you have a lot of inbound leads, figure out which leads to prioritize. So it's a bit of a challenge. But especially because our presence in Europe is we're mainly represented in Europe, and our biggest challenge is how to move that to the US. And we thought because of your experience, you might be able to guide us a bit or to tell us some tips and tricks on companies that move from Europe to the US and anything that goes with that. So that's the first question, yeah.
We have many case studies of customers who have moved successfully from Europe to the US, and there are, again, many different strategies of doing that. This is why I was asking what is working for you right now, because this is a very crowded space. So when you get into a crowded space, Outbound marketing is very hard. Inbound marketing is fine. So I think the strategy that I would use is more figuring out how to scale your inbound marketing and see if you can do that in the US more effectively. And that has a whole slew of ways to do that. We have a company that's in India. So the thing that works well when especially if you're doing SME, and if it's inbound SME, you can scale from anywhere in the world. Especially small business focused stuff that is basically people looking for stuff and coming to you. Enterprise is a different animal, and when it comes to enterprise, there are companies, we have case studies of European companies that have scaled with channels. Then you need to look for the right channel partners in the US, and that would be one way. But this is all outside of your, content marketing and inbound lead generation strategies so far, because these are, it's not something that you have experience with yet. So in any case, I'll be happy to guide you. We're going to need to stop because I have 3 other people who I need to work with. So, but why don't you hang on? 1, we can talk more at the end of the session, and 2, I will explain to you how to work with 1 million by 1 million.
Yeah, thanks. Great.
You're welcome. Srinivas from Hyderabad, you're next. Go ahead, Srinivas. Folks, we need to get going because I have several other people that I need to work with.
Yeah. Morning, Shramana. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. We have recently set up this company called Renetssa. We are in this business of developing small micro cold storages plus warehouses in the rural areas of India. That is the target marketplace that we are looking at. And so I have been in the energy business for the last 15+ years, 3 out of which was in a solar company. So these warehouses, cold storages would be powered by solar or some renewable source that we are looking at. What we are addressing is a problem that is there in India for the last decade or so. A lot of food gets wasted, and how do we address this wastage in terms of a solution which is designed and kind of sized to the market that we are targeting, which is small marginal farmers, which could be aggregated to a larger entity, and those entities are already in place. These are called farmer producer companies, each one of them having anywhere between 200 to 1,000 farmers to give them the voice that they don't lack, that they lack. I'm sorry. So the waste is runs into some billions of dollars, and this has been a recurring theme year after year. And if you look up the papers, 10 years ago, you'd find the same story. The value keeps increasing, but the problem remains as it is. Yeah. So the next slide. I'll go to the next slide. Yeah. The problem is as the produce moves from the farmer to the consumer, the farm to the fork, as they say, there is a wastage at every step, and every step is a cost addition rather than value addition. And a smaller trader brings it to a bigger trader who brings it to a much bigger trader, and so on and so forth. So in the process, close to 20 to 25% of the food gets wasted. Food of all kinds, not just fruits and vegetables, but even the spices, the commodities like dal, lentils, and so on. And the farmer typically gets only 30% of the final price, and the final value. It varies between 20 to 25% based on the crop, and it's the traders who make the money in this whole in the value chain. I mean, value chain for them, not so for the farmer, really. And the wastages are passed on to the consumer.
I have a question before you go along, Srinivas. Who is going to be paying for your solution? Is it the farmer or the trader? Where are you inserting yourself in this value chain?
I'm inserting myself in the farmer community, the producer.
Does the farmer have money to pay?
Not by himself, but if it's part of a community which is supported by the government, yes.
So who's going to be paying for your services? The government will be paying for your services?
No, the farmer producer company would be paying for the services.
Okay. All right, keep going.
So the key points are the small and marginal farmers not having voice.
You got that.
So so the value proposition is this. I mean, those farming communities that do not have access to the local farm gate level storage infrastructure, we provide them this this technology, and a linkage to the marketplace.
So what all this is kind of. I don't think it's so much the IoT or ICT that is my concern at all. The real question here is how is the money going to flow? First and foremost, this is a capital intensive business. How are you going to finance these cold storages? Who's going to pay for all that? And secondly, I have concerns about the customer being able to pay for it. So can you address those two questions, those two issues?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the pricing point, I think the price it would be roughly 1/100th of what what is typically found. These are very small. I mean, a 10 feet by 10 feet by 10 foot kind of a container or a room, which would be roughly $500,000 Indian rupees. So that's not much, but if it is owned by community, and there are policies in place which actually promote those kind of producer organizations and associations. So that's why we are targeting the solution to.
So you're going to put a cold storage and you're going to finance, let's say, the cost of a storage, and how long does it take for that cold storage to start becoming, pay off that investment and start becoming revenue generating?
I think it would be anywhere between 1.5 to 2 years, typically 1.5 years.
So what is your patience level for something like this?
When you say patience level in terms of being in this business for a long time?
Yes, because if every one of them takes 5 lakhs of investment, and then you're going to take 2 years to recover that investment before it starts generating, profits, etc. So it's actually a question of capital plus then operating experience and operating costs and so forth. So you need to do like a P&L of this thing to see how you want to build this business and how are you going to finance this business, and when does this business become financially interesting, because these kinds of businesses are not attractive to investors very much. So, are you going to do it as like a cottage industry level? Are you going to do like one cold storage? Are you going to be happy with that? Or are you thinking of doing something more scalable? How are you going to do this? What is the financial rationale of doing this, and what is the financial strategy of doing this?
The idea is to build a hub and spoke kind of a network in a couple of districts that we've identified. And then, I mean, most of the country is predominantly vegetarian, so I don't think there's a shortage of markets in terms of.
No, I'm asking for financials. I'm not concerned about. Okay. There is a huge concern about your market, because your market is not the consumers. Your market is the customer who is going to be paying. So you're talking about these communities of farmers who don't have enough margin selling their produce to be able to afford additional infrastructure. So what kind of money? So the thing that bothers me about your proposal here, Srinivas, is that it doesn't have any of the precision that Asheem was talking about. None of the precision of thinking through what this business is going to look like. So that's where from a financial point of view, how is the money going to flow? What are the denominations we're talking about? What is the revenue you're going to generate? What is the investment? What is the revenue you're going to generate? What is the operating expense? What is the capital expense? What is the profit margin? How is this going to scale? None of that is thought through. And without any of that, without thinking through all that, I don't even know if this business is viable.
Okay.
And I think, my guess, based on what I've seen so far, you don't know whether this business is viable. And as far as I'm concerned, right now, my advice to you is you should not even jump into this business without doing a very thorough viability analysis. And if you want to do that, even though we don't really do these kinds of capital-intensive projects, but if you want to understand how to assess the viability of this project, I'll be happy to coach you, and you can wait and listen to the segment where I will explain how to work with 1 million by 1 million.
Right, thanks.
Okay. All right. Ashutosh Dabral from Bangalore, you're up next. Ashutosh, are you on the call? What's going on? Should I move to the next person? Carlo, let's start with you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Is this Carlo?
Yes, I'm Carlo.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I'm Carlo, CEO of Innovation Discovery. Did you know that more than 60% of the people attend waiting a long time before upgrading to a newer or better technologies? And also, did you know that big companies failed because of lack of innovations? So, for this reason, we are developing a worldwide database of innovations that will be networkable to promote, diffuse, acquire, and sell innovative ideas. Our idea is that knowledge is success, and innovation is the key of the future. So new products save money, save time, reduce consumption, and improve quality. But consumers still use obsolete technologies because they don't really understand new products and new technologies. And corporate, most of the time, it's really hard for corporates to stay up to date because there are so many innovations in the world every day, and it's also very difficult to hire the right person with the right skills. Our idea is a web platform. Sorry.
So what's in this in the database? What's in the database?
Innovations, innovative ideas that are already on the market. So we start from innovations that are in the market from a long time, something like solar panels, and also in other innovations that are just appeared on the market, for example, the driverless cars and something like that. All kind of innovations, but not just products, also methodologies. For example,
I don't understand. So, Carlo, please pay attention to the fact that I'm not understanding what is in the database, because again, precision is important, and you need to be able to be very precise about what's in this database. A sustainable car idea, okay, well, we already know that Tesla is doing sustainable cars, self-driving cars, Google is doing self-driving cars. What is an idea? What is the definition of an idea?
Any kind of product that is innovative, so create some improvement to the daily life, so to the corporate, to the business, and that is already on the market. So it's not in developing for the future, but something that could be purchased now from the people or from the company.
Okay.
Okay. And,
keep going.
Okay, yes, our idea is to give to consumers tools to understand better the technologies in order to save money, save time, improve the quality of life, and to corporates give some tools that are just a bit different than the tools that already exist. For example, our professional networking is not based on people, but it's based on the technology, on the innovation. So, for example, if you go inside the solar panel, you will be connected immediately to all the dealers in the world for the solar panel product, all the new market, all the market where the solar panel already is, and so it's really easy for corporates keep in touch with new dealers or new resellers and so on. The hiring solutions that we propose is based not just on skills, but is based on the product that the people has already developed in the past. So if you are looking for people, for a new employee to develop the new solar laptop, you can see if someone of them has already worked on a solar smartphone, for example, in order to identify the best candidates, and not just the people that has the right skills, because normally having the right skills doesn't mean that you can produce the product that corporates want.
And how are you going to populate this database with the people who have worked on these solutions and, you know, in specific industry areas and so forth?
Yes, can I go to the next slide so I show you?
Sure.
Sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
The front-end part is it's totally free for everybody. It is something like Wikipedia, where we can collect the innovations in the world through a community and of users. So also the company can fill the database for free, but we use professional reviewers to be sure that the quality of the information are really high. So not like Wikipedia that everybody can write what they want, but we need that all the informations are categorized in the proper way. And we categorize the information, so we use categories in order to make easier find the right information, the right technologies. Because at this moment, if you are looking for the green energy for your house, you need to know the name of the green energy. So you need to know solar panels or the wind turbine to use in your house. In our platform, you go inside green energy. You have the list of all the green energies that are available now at this moment in the market. So is it clear?
I will suggest that you keep going, but this presentation needs a lot of work to, you know, really explain what you're trying to do. But go ahead, let me listen to you and see what I can decipher out of it. Go ahead.
Okay, I just go back just a second. The other part, the back end, is more like a LinkedIn style where the companies can do networking through an innovation. So company can identify new dealers just going inside the card of innovation. So if a company produces solar panel, go inside the card of a solar panel and find all the dealers in the world or the professionals in the world that has already worked on solar panel.
Okay.
How we are going on the market now? So we are on the social. So we are creating custom videos for each innovation to underline benefits, pros and cons and applications. Sorry. A Facebook group to promote the innovations. We want to use Twitter as to start discussion about innovations to understand better what people are looking for. A LinkedIn group for professionals. And then we are going to do cold call. We are inviting professionals and corporates to fill the database, to add their innovation to the database, or to be connected to the innovations that already are on the database. And this is our growth in the first 4 months. So we started. We get 36,000 users, freemium users, in 4 months, and also. And
what are these people doing? These 36,000 users, what are they doing in your? You know, who are these 36,000 users? Are they your Twitter followers or your LinkedIn connections, or how do you categorize? How do you come to this 36,000 number?
Yes, no, we use social media to redirect people on our platform. So at this moment, it's just a blog where we are collecting all the innovations, and we are explaining the innovations in an easy way that is understandable from everybody. So right now we have direct traffic on our website that we have 36,000 users on our website. And they are looking for innovations. So they are looking for new technologies for green energy, new technologies for medical, new technologies for automotive, for everything. So we are working on any type of innovations, not just technologies or
you know, this I can see what you're trying to do in terms of raising money. Frankly, I don't understand this business at all. You know, what is the business? How do investors make money? It's just completely unclear to me, and it seems like it's completely unclear to you. So under the circumstances, this project is not at all ready for financing.
All right.
So
yes.
I don't think you can get an investor anytime soon. This needs a lot of work to clean up and you know, achieve the level of precision that we were talking about in the conversation with Asheem earlier. Is that, you know, you need to have a very clear idea of exactly what you're doing, how are you going to make money of that, and how are investors going to make money of that. And none of that is clear to me here. And as far as you are concerned, Carlo, my advice to you would be to learn some methodology of how to build a business. Have you done this before? Have you done a startup before?
Not a startup. I work with my own business, but it was a regular enterprise. So I work with different businesses, but it's not with a startup.
So you haven't done your own business so far. I think that's where I would start, is to learn how to build a business, and that's something we can help you with. But this is, right now, you're so far from, you know, being fundable or even being viable. You really need to learn a lot of methodology.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I will explain to you how to use 1M to do that, and you can ask more questions after I'm done with that segment. All right. Thank you, Carlo. Ashutosh, are you on the call? Your slides are here. You're not on the call, so I'm going to move.
Yeah, hi.
You are? Okay, great. Hang on, let me go back to your slides.
Samana, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having some trouble with my broadband. I just keep getting disconnected. So let me start. So I'm Ashutosh. I'm the co-founder of a company called Voyage Up. It's a mobile app for Android and iOS. We've been doing this for around 5.5 months right now. So the whole concept is that we help you discover and meet people who are nearby. And the genesis of this idea was that once I was traveling back from the US and I got stuck in Paris airport for 7-8 hours, and I did not have my laptop charger with me, and I wanted to borrow a charger. And when I looked around me, everyone was using free Wi-Fi available there, but no one was talking to the other person, and very difficult to figure out who to reach out to for something like this. So originally, we started with a concept that people in the same Wi-Fi can see each other's profile and start talking to each other, chatting with each other, and then meet up. Later, we also extended it to, one was Wi-Fi, and the second was a small radius around you, because we realized that there are a lot of places Wi-Fi is not available. So this is.
Ashutosh, I guess he's having difficulty with his phone line. You're cutting away, Ashutosh. So, you know, I'm going to give you a bit of quick feedback based on your slides, and you can listen to the feedback in the recording, okay, Ashutosh, because you seem to be having difficulty with your line, and you know, we have the slides in front of you. You're trying to basically connect with people on the same Wi-Fi and do some sort of a social networking, matchmaking for various different use cases, whether it's just, you know, asking for help or, you know, just chit-chatting or social networking or professional networking or even dating, and you want to do that in different contexts. You can do that in airports, you may want to do that in conferences, you know, youth hostels, etc. So I guess the feedback that I would have is to look for the use cases where there is the most natural interest of people to connect. So conference is a good one. I think you're already seeing that event-related networking. When people go to conferences, they actually do go with the intent of wanting to network. By the way, this is a concept that I've seen many times in these forums as well as otherwise, of people wanting to create some sort of a networking, event networking use case through apps. So you need to do some comparative analysis and research to find out what's happening in that particular space. And if you go in that particular use case and build your business in that use case, I imagine that there are, you know, business models. You could get the conference organizers to pay for the application and have all the, you know, basically all the attendees, event attendees, download that. If you're looking at youth hostels, then again, you're going to need to go figure out where are you going to sell? Who's paying for this? Are the hostels paying for this? Are the backpackers paying for this? Who's paying for this? Free download is not validation. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to know which use case pays. It is absolutely not too early to be focusing on revenues. We need to understand what is the business you're building. Otherwise, you're randomly putzing around and giving free downloadable apps to various different users. That is not a business, and that is definitely never going to be a fundable business. So I'd like to understand, and I'd like you to understand first and foremost, is how is this business going to monetize, and what is this business going to look like? Same advice to you as I just gave to Carlo, is that you really need to learn methodology and you need to learn how to build a business. And a business that monetizes, a business is not free users, a business is paying users, and who's going to pay? So I hope you can pick that feedback up from the recording, and hope that will be useful to you. Folks, I'll spend a few minutes giving you some input on how to use 1M1M if this is what you choose to do your learning and acceleration with. One thing you could do is there's a course, bootstrapping course that I have created on lynda.com, and you could learn that. You know, that's a free course. You could use that as a stepping stone, as a starting point. And then everything else is on 1mby1m.com. You'll find a blog, you'll find, and that's free, then you'll find the Entrepreneur Journeys book series. There's 12 volumes of Entrepreneur Journeys. You'll learn a bunch of things from there. On our website, there's a lot of information about the 1M1M program itself, videos, etc. These roundtables happen every week. You can continue to learn using this sessions as well as the recorded versions of, you know, prior roundtables. There are tons of those on the YouTube channel. And then if you actually want intense methodology guidance, learning the methodology of how to actually build a business, you can join the 1M1M Premium program, where we offer you that. There's an intense curriculum that you're going to be using. It's an online curriculum that you can do at your own time, and then we have sessions like this where we'll do the project work. You know, the combination of curriculum and the roundtables is how we do your, development, basically, your personal development, your project development. So, and then, where appropriate, we will make connections, whether it's business development connections, customers, channel partners, or connections related to financing. You have to get to a point where you're fundable before you get to the financing connections, but that's also viable, reasonable. And we have a lot of clout in the media. Will help you get the word out in the media, etc. And that's part of the premium program. You can go to the website. $1 Million Club link has a bunch of case studies of successful 1M entrepreneurs. You can find in ROI analysis, also on the quantifying the 1M value equation link. The self-assessment is something that you should each take your business through. You need to ask these questions about your business, and you need to try to understand whether you can answer these questions or not. This is the framework of building your business. And if you're getting stuck on any of these questions and you need methodology training, you could also go to 1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only option. The 1M Premium is a $1,000 annual membership fee, and you get the project consulting and stuff on that. That's the private roundtables. But you could also start your methodology learning just by subscribing to the curriculum at a $99 a month fee, and that will also teach you a lot. And by the way, our curriculum is based on video lectures and case studies of over 700 successful entrepreneurs. These are entrepreneurs who have been successful, and there are over 50 entrepreneurs who have done billion-dollar-plus businesses. These are the unicorn businesses. There are 400-plus venture-funded entrepreneurs. You learn through their case studies, and then there are over 300 bootstrapped entrepreneurs. So you learn all nuances of business building and see which one fits your particular situation and scenario. So it's a case studies and video lectures-based curriculum. You learn a tremendous amount from it if you do put the effort into studying. And most of you haven't done this before, so you're going to need to learn, and you have to study. So there is no other way of doing this other than studying and learning. And if you just dig around on the website, you'll get a lot of information on the programs themselves, on the 1M program itself. There are video FAQs, etc. So go do that and see if this is how you want to learn. But you have to learn one way or the other. You have to learn. There are a lot of knowledge gaps right now in what you're presenting, and you're going to need to plug those knowledge gaps somehow, and you're going to need to learn to do that in a way that is lean and capital efficient, and you don't run out of runway. You have limited resources, and you have to learn all this and put it into some kind of a viable situation so that you don't run out of runway and go out of business. Okay, that's it. So if you have questions, now we are definitely in Q&A time. I'll be happy to answer any other questions, comments, issues that you are dealing with. I'll be happy to talk about them. We have roundtables every week in October, so please, if you need time and would like to pitch, please book your slot. And that's pretty much all I have to offer you today. So this is the call-in number. If you want to call in, please feel free to dial in and let me know in public chat that you are calling in, so I call for you. And while you're doing that, let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the 1M program, Irina will be happy to help you answer those questions and figure out whether this is the right program for you. Whether it is through this program or another program or through your own learning, you have to, plug the gaps in your methodology understanding. Anybody, questions, comments, introductions? Feel free to introduce yourselves if you haven't already? Anybody? No? No questions? All right, folks, if you don't have any questions, then we're going to wrap up for today. Meet you back here for those of you who want to pitch next time. Please feel free to sign on, and I look forward to working with you more next time. Thank you very much for coming. Bye-bye.